What's up? I haven't made a video for you guys in a while because this channel has obviously been a jiu-jitsu channel, and with the whole coronas and COVID-19 things, that's kind of made things a little difficult. I've kind of had to think about different ways of how to shoot content and use my jiu-jitsu mind and maybe pull from, maybe do a little bit more jiu-jitsu talks. Luckily, I was able to do a vlog last week of me actually, me and Ty shooting some training footage of us getting some curriculum out for our kid students. It's going to be a little weird with the shooting schedule and the release schedule, but I've only got like 60 people watching me regularly, so it's not that big of a deal. It's a good way to practice and try new things. Today, what I was thinking about was I have actually been a black belt for 1 year now. I thought I'd give you guys a view and some things I learned after being a black belt for a year. What are some things that maybe have changed? If my jiu-jitsu has changed, if I have a different perspective on jiu-jitsu now. I've actually been asked that question, if everyone kind of, once you get your black belt, does things change? So I thought I'd give you guys my 2 cents on what it's like to have been a black belt for 1 year, for me. So the first thing for me that I felt changed when I got my black belt was that this internal weight just came off me. And it wasn't, like I said, it was an internal weight. There was no external weight. It wasn't like my training partners or my coaches were putting this tremendous amount of weight on me. It was this internal pressure. As a brown belt, you feel like that you have to rise to this occasion to be able to catch the black belts in your gym, or the black belts that you train with or you spar with. You're still pushing yourself, trying to prove yourself, trying to get to their level. And also, you're trying to make sure the purple belts, the people below you, you're still sharper than they're catching you. The purple belts are starting to get really good. So as a brown belt, you're trying to make sure that you're still keeping them down and you're staying above them. You have this kind of internal battle that you kind of put on yourself. And I know I'm talking about this in very competition terms right now. I don't care what academy you train at, there's like internal battles inside the gym. Not necessarily that you guys are mad at each other, but you guys have your battles. For myself, I had this internal pressure as a brown belt that I need to rise up enough, and I need to be able to be skilled enough for the black belt, but then I also had to make sure that I kept the purple belts at a certain distance, or brown belts, I was still giving it all that they got. And then once I got my black belt, it was like all that was lifted. It was gone. It was oh man, I can just train now. It wasn't like jiu-jitsu was so taxing on me to where I didn't want to train, but you put so much pressure on yourself internally that it can sometimes not be as fun. What happens is that each belt, I don't think I've ever talked about this before, and some of you may have heard of this and some of you may not have. So this is a good talk to have. But kind of at each belt level, you have a journey. At white belt, you're really just learning the basics and the fundamentals, being introduced to what an arm lock is, what a choke is, starting to speak the language. And then at blue belt, you're starting to learn some multiple setups for these techniques. So you learn, a bunch of different ways to do an arm lock, a bunch of different ways to do a triangles, and ways to make them better and add flair to them. And at a purple belt, you're still collecting things, but you've collected a lot by the time you're a purple belt, and you're starting to kind of figure out what really works for you. What works for your body type, maybe what works for your size, things that you just enjoy doing, things that we tend to gravitate toward techniques that we catch a lot in the gym, or that we seem like we have success with. That's why we gravitate toward them. And then brown belt, you have decided, you know what you like. You spent all purple belt figuring that out. And so brown belt, you've figured out what you like, and you're just making it razor sharp. You're just sharpening it over and over again. As you're training with the black belts and you're training with, the brown belts and the purple belts, you're just sharpening your sword. And you tend to fall into the thing that you do really well, especially at a brown belt, because of those reasons, because you're trying to throw your best shot at the upper belt. And then it was like at black belt, it was like this whole weight was lifted. I remember in the first 2 weeks of training, I started playing spider guard, and I obviously I know spider guard, and I know techniques from there, but I wasn't a major spider guard player. I played the most spider guard that I had played in years. It wasn't like that I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make my spider guard better. It was that for some reason, now that I was a black belt, I felt comfortable playing things that maybe I wasn't as good at. I had like a new confidence about myself. And that seems kind of weird to say, because as a black belt, you're like, yeah, you should have all the confidence, you know, all these techniques. But I'm telling you right now, like, just because you're a brown belt or a high level jiu-jitsu person, you still have internal battles that you know that you're not very good at, and you're still self-conscious about certain things. This year, the 1 year that I spent as a black belt, I was probably the most diverse in my training that I've ever been. It's not that like you have to be a black belt to be able to do that. I think everyone should do that in their own training. They should train all these different ways and different positions. You don't really ever get to just train everything that you want all the time, because if you're rolling with the upper belt, a lot of times you don't get a choice. They dictate the pace, they dictate the position, they dictate everything. And then it's not till you become like a brown or a black belt where you can start dictating the pace on most people, either in your academy, and you get to work what you want. The 1 day from brown to black didn't instantly make me better, but it did feel like it freed everything up. And so I just was okay with playing all these other new positions now, because I wasn't a brown belt and I was like, whatever. And it was like I actually even rolled better. I was like sparred better. It was like when I put the belt on, I instantly got better. I found that very fascinating in this year of training, that I've actually gone back and moves, techniques that maybe I learned at a blue or a purple belt level, I just didn't really use a whole lot. And maybe this is just me. I don't know, but I have talked to other brown belts and black belts that also have felt that. Once they got their black belt, they felt like free to like go and train all these new positions now. It's not that you can't do it. It's just weird that when you get your black belt, you feel like you're more obligated or you're more open to doing that. Probably one of the biggest things that I've enjoyed about being a black belt for a year. You know, I'm not a heavy competitor. I don't compete every weekend, so from a competition standpoint, I can't really tell you the differences with that. A quick story here to end this with is that the day that I got my black belt, another student that got promoted with me is my longtime training partner, Jennifer Gay, who is Ty's wife. Ty Gay is my instructor, the academy that I train out of, and his wife had been training with me for almost the same length of time that I have been training. I think she's been training, I've been training for 10 years. I think she's been closer to 11. Our black belts on the same day, promoted us at the same time. And so that was really cool. Another funny story about Jennifer is that she's the very first person I ever sparred with. Like the first person I ever grappled with. I came in day one, I was about 130 pounds. I think Jennifer's probably like 110, 115. So I wasn't much bigger than her. I think, I did a class, and you know, you learn 2 or 3 techniques and then you do your sparring. This is when we had our classes structured way differently than we do now. First person I grappled with, and I was like, what is this girl gonna do to me? You know, she's not gonna, yeah, okay, whatever. So I grappled with her, and she beat the living shit out of me. Tapped me like a drum left and right. She had been training like 7-8 months. I think she was like a 3 or 4 stripe white belt, and she was like one of the only females there, and she was small. So when someone who was a new person who was close to her size, even though I was a male, she was like super excited, and she let me have it. She beat the tar out of me. The last little thing, Ty, who, like I said, who is the owner of the academy, a big influence in his jiu-jitsu career was Henry Akins. Henry was actually present at the time that I got my black belt. I know for a fact I've been to at least a seminar at every belt level of Henry's. Probably even more, multiple times at each belt level. I think I've been fortunate enough to go to Henry's seminar almost once a year, and I've got to train with him numerous times in private lessons and private training as well too. And so I consider him a very big influence of my jiu-jitsu journey. Very, very happy that Henry was there at the same time that I got my black belt, as kind of like Ty and Henry were over. And so that was very cool. I got to get promoted with a student that I have a lot of respect for, and a longtime training partner, and 2 professors and 2, you know, other, you know, black belts of the art were there kind of recognizing it and acknowledging it. So that was very cool for me. A little bit of reflections of how I felt like of 1 year of being a black belt did. I'm very, very excited for this next year and these next years to see how my jiu-jitsu grows and changes. A year from now, I'll document what it was like to be 2 years of you know, a jiu-jitsu black belt. This is the end of this episode. Hopefully you guys like these stories. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Shoot them down in the comments below, and yeah, stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll see you guys next time.